Hello students, good morning. This class is for class 3 science. Now this is a revision class of the chapter number 1 that I have already explained, and I have finished off with all the question answers, fill in the blanks and everything. So this is a revision class because we have only one more chapter left for our unit test, but this video is a revision class for the chapter 1. So what are the things that we have already studied in chapter 1? Living and non-living things. What are living things and non-living things? Living things are those things which have life in them. You have so many things around us. They are actually categorized into two things, two category groups, that is living and non-living. So things around us are categorized into living and non-living. And how will you differentiate between living things and non-living things? Living things are those things which have life in them, which need food to grow, which can breathe, which can feel the changes around them, which can excrete, which grow with time. So these are characteristics of living things. And what are the characteristics of non-living things? Whatever characteristics you have in living things, they are just the opposite in character for non-living things. So number one, if we take living things, the first characteristic is living things need food. So we all know, if we take an example of human being, we cannot survive without eating food. So we need food to live, and at the same time we need food to obtain energy from the food so that we can do our work or other activities. The second characteristic is living things breathe. We human beings, not only human beings but all living things, need air to breathe. If we take example of human beings, we take oxygen and release carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide is actually taken by plants so that in return they can release oxygen for us. The next characteristic is living things move. Now we all know, children, that if you take the example of yourself, we can move by ourselves. If I ask you to move from one place to another, you can move without anyone pushing you or pulling you. So living things can move by its own, but non-living things cannot move by its own. You have to push or pull. Now suppose if I take this marker, unless I push or I pull, this non-living things will not show any movement. Now living things, so we can walk from one place to another. Animals can also walk from one place to another. But what about trees? They do not show external movement. They actually show internal movement by moving their branches or leaves towards the sunlight. Whichever side the sun moves, the branches of that plant moves to that side. In this way they show the movement. Next thing is living things grow. Now when we take birth, we are not generally this big and then we take birth. No. When we take birth, the size of our body is very small. Slowly and slowly, with the passage of time, we grow in size. And also at the same time, there is a limit when you actually stop growing in our physical appearance. The next thing is living things have a lifespan. So as I have explained you, lifespan means duration of time for how long, duration of time of a period for how long a living things live. And so this gap from birth to death of any living things is known as lifespan. So generally, if you take birth, you have to die. So that gap from your birth time to your death time is the lifespan. And every living things, remember children, every living things have a particular lifespan. Living things reproduce, yes. Unless we reproduce, how can we increase the population or number of population in our own kind? We human beings give birth to young ones. Animals also give birth to young ones. But then there is a difference between, little bit of difference. There are few animals, especially birds, who lay eggs and new babies are hatched out from that eggs. So you have a different process to reproduce of your own kind. Living thing feel changes. Yes, we feel changes around us. If there is any kind of changes in the weather or in your environment, we can sense that. And how can we sense that? With the sense organ. And what are the sense organ I have told you? The sense organs are skin, tongue, eyes, ears, so these are the sense organ that living things have and they feel changes. Plants do not have this sense organ, but they still change. For example, if you take the example of touch me not plant, whenever you go closer to them or if you touch them, you will see the leaves of those plants closes. This is how they show movement or feel changes in the because of whatever occurs in their surrounding. The last characteristic is living things excrete. Yes, we, not only human being, animals, even plants do excrete. They throw out waste out from their body. In the plants throw out waste in the form of gums and resins. Human beings in the form of sweat or feces. Animals also release or gives out waste, excrete waste in the form of feces. Non-living things, characteristic, whatever characteristic, remember this, whatever characteristic living things possesses, just the opposite is the characteristic for living thing, non-living things. Like they do not need food, they do not move, they do not excrete, they do not feel changes, they do not reproduce, they do not have any lifespan. So this is all just the opposite characteristic of non-living things is just the opposite characteristic of living things. So children, I hope all of you have understood and I have given a revision class. Please children, learn the question answers and fill in the blanks, and if you have any doubt, please let me know so that I can help you out. For today, up to this much, let's see when we start with the next chapter. Thank you so much.